Welcome back to Ac3TV. We're now exploring part 2 of our episode with the guru of customer satisfaction, Paul Van Veenendaal. And Paul, in our first episode, we really just touched on the different types of customer satisfaction programs. And now what we really want to do is start exploring the different drivers behind customer satisfaction.
Absolutely. It's great to be back, and yes, looking forward to talking a bit more about what are the drivers. So in essence, there's 5 major drivers that we'll talk about. Firstly, the agent manner. The agent must have an interesting, warm and helpful manner. Very important. Sets off the whole tone for the whole interaction. Secondly, first call resolution. The agent must in his or her mind think, how many times has this person called about this issue? And think about it in your own life. When you've rung about 4 times about an issue, you're nowhere near as happy as the first time you've tried to ring up and get it resolved. Yep. Thirdly, their product knowledge is very important. The agents do have to understand and know their product, which means that training is pretty important. Fourthly, listening skills, and I still see that as one of the most important ones as well. If the agent listens very carefully to what the client is saying and repeats it back to the client, so let me understand you're looking for this or you want this resolved, it does help to clarify and it sets the tone for the overall satisfaction, the first call resolution, the lot. Finally, the agents have to be polite and courteous and treat the customer with respect.
First call resolution again sort of always keeps coming through, I guess, as a key. Why is it? Well, why? I mean, you mentioned earlier that if you ring the 4th time, you're certainly going to be less happy.
Yeah, well,
absolutely. I think most people can relate to that.
Yeah.
Is that the main reason, or are there other sort of cost benefits around it?
When we say about first call resolution, the issue is, the question is, and this gets down to devils in the detail. The question is, how many times did you call to have this issue resolved? Now, you may have had 4 phone calls back saying, look, the man in the van's coming around to install this and he's like 10 minutes away, look, he's there, this is happening, and they're keeping you informed all the time. That's fine. It's when you have to keep ringing up and saying what's happening, where it's up to. That's important. So how many times did you call about this issue? To answer your question, how do you achieve a high first call resolution, I suppose, is the way you're heading there. Look, I have to say that first and foremost, it's important that the agent understands that that's really a key driver of success. And in their head, they've got to keep thinking right throughout the call. First of all, right from the beginning, how many times have you called about this issue, right through to the end? Not, is there anything else can I help you with, but have I satisfied your issues around this inquiry today? Being very clear and specific about it. You'll notice that theme coming through. If the agents are starting to think like that and understand that's a measure, then you'll get a much higher performance. The routing, of course, is very, very important there within a contact centre. Routing the right questions. This is a bill inquiry. Is this a general inquiry? Is this a breakdown or whatever it is? Can I be routed to the right person so they can give the first call resolution? Very important.
So when we talk first call resolution rates, what's typical in the industry? What's good? What's bad?
Looks good question. I would say we've seen anything from 30% to 70%. This is from a customer satisfaction survey perspective. I've seen we've seen research that from a customer satisfaction perspective, if you can increase your first call resolution from 30% to 35%, we've seen that in a 30% drop in the calls coming into the business. So just a 5% increase in that first call satisfaction from a customer satisfaction survey perspective can give you a 30% drop in calls. Massive. Wow. Very important.
And within Australia, who's the leading industry in terms of first call resolution rates?
Well, it's hard to sort of say, but what we do is we actually mystery shop organisations. Thousands of calls we do every month to organisations and mystery shop them. And what we're finding, and so we have very simple, frequently asked questions from a website. We are seeing a first call resolution going from 65% to 100%, just in that sort of simple questions.
Yeah, and that's not complex stuff. That's
this
literally
is
information.
FAQs off your website. Yeah. Very simple, easy to use.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, we're seeing the banks are doing very well here. Yep. Interestingly enough, I think they're starting to understand it. The big banks are doing well. The Commonwealth Bank is getting there, NAB's getting there, and Suncorp up in Queensland would be in the top 3. Bendigo Bank is also up there doing a very good job.
Yep.
Okay? They're the ones that are starting to really hone in on this and get it right.
Why do you think the banks are the ones up the top of the list?
I think they're starting to listen to their customers more. There's been a big push. There's no surprise that the guys at Commonwealth Bank have been pushing a lot more to be customer service focused and get it right. It's not an easy journey, and they've been doing it for the last 5 or 6 years from what we've seen. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And let's look at the other end of the scale. So you're saying the banks are sort of up there at the top industries. Which are the industries that are still lagging behind?
Look, something that really surprised me is the car rental firms aren't doing that well here, which is interesting. You would think that's very competitive.
Yep.
Mobile phones, still very hard to get a first call resolution there. I mean, that may be because it's quite complex, but the questions we ask are quite simple here.
Yep.
The other one that really comes out is managed funds. They really haven't started getting their heads around this type of question, providing a clear resolution, and I think there's an opportunity there to move into measuring that better. Yeah. Okay.
Look, definitely a fascinating topic. You mentioned a quarterly survey earlier that you make lots of calls. Can people get their hands on that? Is that readily available?
Absolutely. We have a newsletter, and every quarter we say we now mystery shop over 250 companies every day of the week. We have a top 10, and that's in our newsletter. Go to our website, csba.com.au. Just have a look at the latest newsletter and you can see it. And if you're interested, we cover 15 different industries. You can have a look and find out and see if you are measured. And if you're not, give us a call. We're happy to talk about running a benchmarking program. Jump on and see how well you're going and how you're compared against your industry and those outside your industry. Absolutely.
Okay. There you go. Tip, csba.com.au. Now, if anyone is sort of planning ahead for next year, can you just sort of very briefly, because we're almost out of time, just touch on what's the trend coming through next year in the world of customer satisfaction?
Well, we're starting to see people focus on still trying to reduce the number of calls that are coming into their contact centre, trying to move those ones offline and move them onto email or websites, frequently asked questions. But something that's really starting to appear is hardship calls. As you know, utility bills are increasing substantially, and there are a lot of people that are struggling starting to pay their bills. And we call them hardship calls. People ring up and say, I'm having trouble paying this bill, what can I do to get finance or what's around there? And that's putting a lot of pressure on the utility organisations. We've just started a benchmarking program with that. It's a little bit different to what we're doing before because it is a complex area and it touches many emotional type issues. We're working with people like Sue Fraser from Kildonan, who's recognised as one of the best people in handling hardship calls and coaching and training and measuring. So we feel we're pretty well there to help organisations get their head around it and improve that because it's going to keep growing, unfortunately.
Okay. Look, we might get a bit stuck in that one in our next episode.
Love to.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us. I think, again, it is always a fascinating topic and I think one that companies are focusing more and more on. So I think you're in the hot seat for keeping the industry informed.
Fabulous. Thanks, Justin. Great to be on again. I'll see you.